Hello everyone, my name is Hillary Rasnick and I am a student at Southwest Virginia Community College, and I'm going to be doing a presentation today on the genitourinary tract and infectious diseases. I have chosen to take my information from chapter 24 out of the book Microbiology, a Systems Approach, and chapter 24 is infectious diseases manifesting in the genitourinary system. All right, the structures I'm going to be talking about are part of the genitourinary tract. There are two distinct organs in this system, and they are the urinary tract and the genital system. The genital system is also called the reproductive system and has reproduction as its major function. The urinary tract includes the kidneys, the ureters, the bladder, and the urethra. And the kidneys remove metabolic waste from the blood and act as a filtration system. The ureters are tubular organs, and they that come from and are attached to both kidneys, um, and they extend to the bladder. All right, the bladder is the reservoir for urine, and it's a collapsible organ that stores and empties urine. Um, and it empties that urine into the urethra, which in turn leads to the exterior or the outside of the body. All right. All right. In males, the urethra is also the terminal organ of the reproductive tract, but in females, the urethra is separate from the vagina, and that's the outermost organ of the reproductive tract. Okay. All right, defense mechanisms of the urinary system. All right, a defense mechanism of the urinary system is the flushing action of urine flowing out of the system. Um, Desquamation is the shedding of epithelial cells lining the urinary tract. And so the flow of urine encourages this action or process. So every time a person urinates or goes to the bathroom, he or she loses hundreds of thousands of microorganisms um, and um, and they also lose hundreds of thousands of epithelial cells, and any microorganism attached to them are also shed. All right. Um, Urine is acidic, and it also contains two antibacterial proteins called lysozyme and lactoferrin. And lysozyme is it's an enzyme that breaks down peptidoglycan, and lactoferrin is an iron-binding protein that inhibits bacterial growth. Also, secretory IgA is specific for previously encountered microorganisms, and it can be found in the urine. All right, the male reproductive system. All right, the male reproductive system produces, maintains, and transports sperm cells, um, and it's the source of male sex hormones. The male reproductive system consists of the testes, and they produce sperm cells and hormones. And the epididymis are coral tubes leading out of the testes, and each epididymis terminates or ends at the vas deferens, and the vas deferens combines with the seminal vesicle and ends in the ejaculatory duct. Um, okay, so when the contents of the ejaculatory duct the contents of the ejaculatory duct, empty into the urethra during ejaculation. Also, there's the prostate gland, and it's a walnut-shaped structure, and it's at the base of the urethra. And it also contributes to the release fluid, which is semen. All right. Um, the male external organs of the male reproductive system. They are the scrotum, which contain the testes, and the penis, and it's a cylindrical organ that houses the urethra. And the male reproductive system, it also has that defense I mentioned of the flushing action of urine, and that helps move microorganisms out of the system. All right, the female reproductive system. All right, the female reproductive system, it consists of the uterus, the fallopian tubes, or also known as uterine tubes, ovaries, and the vagina. And every 28 days, an egg is released, and it moves from one of the ovaries to the uterus, or to the, excuse me, it moves from the ovaries to the fallopian tubes, um, where fertilization may take place if sperm is present. All right, and if fertilization does not occur, the lining of the uterus degenerates and it sloughs off. Um, and this is the process of menstruation. Um, but the terminal portion of the female reproductive tract is the vagina, and it's a tube about 9 centimeters long. Um, it's also the exit tube for fluids from the uterus, the channel for childbirth, and the receptive chamber for the penis during sexual intercourse. And there's also the cervix, and it's part of the uterus, and it's about it can, let's see, it's about the lower 1/3 of the uterus, and it connects to the vagina. And the opening of the uterus is part of the cervix. All right, female defenses of the reproductive tract. They vary over a woman's lifetime, and the vagina is lined with mucous membranes, and has a protective covering of secreted mucus. Um, Secretory IgA antibodies, specific for any previously encountered infections, would be present on these surfaces. The mucus is the major innate defense system, or excuse me, the mucus is the major innate defense of this system. All right. After the onset of puberty, estrogen production changes the pH of the vagina to a more acidic environment, and a normal biota of the vagina is lactobacillus. And lactobacillus discourages the growth of many microorganisms, and it dominates the normal biota of the vagina and in most women. However, scientists have shown that the microbial makeup can dramatically shift during pregnancy and the menstruation cycle. All right. Certain infectious diseases of the urinary system. They manifest in the urinary tract, and urinary tract infections, or UTIs, result from the invasion of the urinary system by bacteria or other microorganisms. And even though the flushing action of urine I talked about earlier, even though um, even though it helps to release or remove bacteria, urine itself is still a good growth medium for bacteria and for lots of microorganisms. All right. Along with infectious diseases of the urinary system, cystitis can occur when urine flow is reduced. And that's when bacteria are accidentally introduced um, into the bladder. And if the infection is confined or limited to the urethra, it's called urethritis. Cystitis symptoms include pain, frequent urge to urinate, even if the bladder is empty, and dysuria, and that's burning pain when urinating. Um, Urine may be cloudy due to the presence of uh, bacteria or white blood cells, and there also might be a possible orange tinge because of the presence of red blood cells in the urine. right. Symptoms of acute UTI and polyonephritis. Um, all right. Low-grade fever and nausea are often present, and this is called an acute UTI if only the bladder is affected. But if back pain and is present and fever is high, the kidneys may be involved, and this infection is called poly, polyonephritis, and it's a serious infection that can result in permanent damage if it's not treated properly. All right. All right. Some infectious diseases that can manifest in the reproductive tract are STIs, or sexually transmitted infections. Some are discharge diseases, some are ulcer diseases, and some are wart diseases. All right. Um, of these sexually transmitted diseases, discharge diseases, they are diseases in which increased fluid is released in male and female reproductive tracts. And ulcer diseases are diseases in which microbes cause distinct open lesions. And then there's wart diseases, and that pretty much speaks for itself. It causes warts. Um, but discharge diseases include, let's see here, excuse me. Discharge diseases include chlamydia and gonorrhea. Ulcer diseases include syphilis and genital herpes. Um, and more diseases cause growths on the skin and include papillomavirus, genital warts, and that's caused by the human papillomavirus, or otherwise known as HPV. Right? All right, gonorrhea. Gonorrhea has been around since ancient times, and it used to be confused with syphilis, but scientists finally made the distinction and figured out that that gonorrhea definitely was not syphilis. They're two different diseases. Symptoms in males include painful urination and a yellowish discharge, um, but many cases are asymptomatic. And in most cases, infection is limited to the distal urogenital tract. And in females, both the urinary and genital tracts will be infected during intercourse. And a mucopurulent or bloody vaginal discharge occurs in about half of the cases, and painful urination if the urethra is affected. But it can also ascend to the upper reproductive structures in a female, and such as the uterus and the fallopian tubes, and this can lead to PID, or pelvic inflammatory disease. And pelvic inflammatory disease can cause sterility, or being sterile, not being able to have children, and ectopic pregnancies, and that's when the pregnancy is in the fallopian tubes instead of the uterus, and implants in the fallopian tubes, and usually, well, always with a ectopic pregnancy, the baby always dies. That's terrible. All right. Chlamydia. Okay, it's the other sexually transmitted infection or disease. Chlamydia is the most common reportable infection in the United States. More than 2 million cases are reported annually, but the infection rate may be much higher than that. They think up to like 7 times higher than what's reported, because it's underreported. A lot of people, where it's asymptomatic, they don't even know they have it, but it's 2 or 3 more times common than gonorrhea. And like I said, in most cases, it is asymptomatic, and people don't even know that they have it. All right. Um, However, though, the symptoms, when they do show in males, include discharge and painful urination, and the bacterium causes inflammation of the urethra. Females have cervicitis, discharge, and saphiitis, and that's inflammation of the fallopian tubes. And women are more likely to experience pelvic inflammatory disease as a result of chlamydia than they are gonorrhea. All right, well, that concludes my presentation, and I appreciate everyone listening. Thank you so much.